half of Hendrick Motorsports had a really good year. 2 of their 4 drivers made it to the final 4 and had a realistic shot at winning a championship, with William Byron winning a half a dozen races. Kyle Larson came on strong at the end of the year. He made it to the final 4. Their other 2 drivers, Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman, no wins this year. We much documented the trials and tribulations of Chase Elliott, which started early on when we were in Vegas and found out he wasn't going to be racing because of a snowboarding accident, later suspended for a race for rough driving in the Coca-Cola 600. Brad Gillie, this sets the stage for Cinderella to step up and let Chase Elliott have a comeback year in 2024. Do you see that?
I do. And see, I love that positivity as well. And on another positive note, yeah, I mean, 2023, his season got decimated by those 2 things that you just mentioned in the 7 races he missed. But in spite of all of that, forget the Owners' Championship thing, which as much as I'd love to troll you on that and talk about, Doug, what really me about Chase Elliott, he finished 17th in the drivers' standings. He missed 7 races and was the top driver among the non-playoff contenders. Think about that. He spotted everyone behind him 7 races and finished ahead of them. How would you feel about your program if you got beat in points by a guy who missed 7 races? And he didn't finish 17th by a little, by the way. He finished 17th by a pretty good margin over Ty Gibbs. And actually, I think Ty Gibbs had a really good rookie season, so give them a lot of credit. 7 races missed, still finished 17th in the standings.
So does this set the stage for an epic Chase Elliott bounce back in your mind, Alexis?
I certainly think he's going to bounce back. Will it be epic? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But I certainly look at not only Chase Elliott, but Hendrick Motorsports, as an organization and as a driver who are not just going to rest on their laurels. Yes, he did not have the season that he wanted for many reasons. There were many setbacks, and he didn't win. I think that, despite all of the things that Brad said about how, far above everybody else that wasn't in the playoffs he finished, I think people look at him as not having a win as being the most glaring thing. Oh, Chase Elliott went this whole season and didn't have a win to his credit, which we're just not accustomed to seeing. I don't think that's going to continue. I think between himself and everybody at Hendrick Motorsports, they're going to right the ship. I don't know if I could say the same about Alex Bowman.
We'll get to Alex in a second. Chase says they weren't that far off this year.
We would have likely made the round of 8 like we did in the owner side. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. Just having run all the races, I would feel good about saying that. But would we just miraculously be winning 5 races, if I had run the 7 or however many that I missed? No, I don't think that's real. I don't think that's a realistic take.
I do think that losing 6 races at the start of the season, you start behind everybody else. Even to what Brad said, they came on, they scored a bunch of points. You've spotted everybody's 6 races experience and chemistry time.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't do that at this level, at this top level. I think also Chase is someone who I think gets in his own head. And I think all of the things that happened, all of the distractions that happened, unfortunately messed with his head a little bit. We talk about that all the time, about how your headspace is almost just as important as, lap times and physical fitness and all of that. And I think, unfortunately for him, when that accident happened, he just spiraled a little bit mentally. And I think it was hard for him to overcome that. But hopefully in the off season and through the last part of the season that he had in 2023, that will help him overcome anything that may still be lingering from that.
Well, that's hard to do. Brad Gillie, there was a time in this country's history if people went missing, their images appeared on a milk carton. Because have you seen this person? Probably not. I just want to eat my Raisin Bran and pour some milk over it. But this year, I think you could have put Alex Bowman's picture on a milk carton.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. With his injury, different than Chase Elliott's, obviously, where Chase Elliott's was leg injury. Hearing Denny Hamlin actually talk about Alex Bowman's injury sort of made me look at it a little bit different, because Hamlin actually had a broken back and missed a handful of races and came back and actually didn't win all season until the very final race of the year. Hamlin said of his back injury that he lost the feel in the race car. Even though he came back, there were just things he couldn't feel in the race car that took him the better part of the entire season to start to get back. So I don't know if Alex Bowman had a similar situation. I mean, he has been good for a win or 4 per season for the past few seasons on the schedule, but I don't know if a difference in his injury versus Chase Elliott's is a difference in performance from what we saw from him to Chase Elliott. But, you know, before that injury, let's not forget, Alex Bowman was leading the points in the NASCAR Cup Series point standings. He was having a spectacular year, and the injury, the bottom fell out, but we can't forget where that team was before it happened.
Can they find that magic again, Alexis?
I don't know. You know, I mentioned before, I'm not sure that they can. It'll be interesting to see, because like Brad said, that injury, that particular injury, could have lasting effects that potentially affect how he is able to feel the race car and how he's able to do in the race car. And we'll just have to see, because, you know, Alex Bowman is somebody who I feel like he's always fighting people saying, you know, comparing him to his teammates. And he's always kind of been the 4th driver there. And I think he has to overcome that. And I think he has to overcome the injury. And there's a lot going on there. So we'll see. Again, when I mentioned Chase Elliott getting in his own head, there might be a little bit of that with Alex Bowman, too.
Like Alex Bowman, he is the 4th driver there.
He is.
There was no question. There is a pecking order. Chase Elliott wins that because of cumulative.
Yeah.
William Byron and Kyle Larson are right there with him. Kyle Larson could have been a 2-time champion already. And Alex Bowman, no, he's the 4th guy in that lineup. I know he injured his back, but he's got to get his head right.
Yes,
that's where the transformation has to take place for Alex Bowman. Get your head right. And that does beg the question, and I'll give my thought on this real quickly. With these guys going out and playing in these other cars during the offseason, if I'm Rick Hendrick, no. And I will tell Kyle Larson that. We invest millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of work hours in you. And I'm looking at everybody that works in one of those Hendrick Motorsports shops. They got 500 people on their campus 3 miles from here. They are all dependent on the performance level of a Kyle Larson, of a Chase Elliott, of whoever races. And if you're going out and it's so important to you to race on Thursday night in some sprint car deal, it's going to pay $1,000. To me, this is just Doug Rice's opinion, that is the absolute ultimate selfish act. I like what I'm doing so much more than I value the value of this team that I'm going to go put myself at risk on Thursday night.
You know, I can see both sides of it. I really can. I definitely can see your side of it. I can see the side of the sponsor. You know, when you look specifically at Ally or you look specifically at Napa, they didn't pay, you know, whatever they paid their sponsorship for to see, you know, no offense, Josh Berry in that car.
No, they didn't.
Because their driver is sitting on the sidelines. And, you know, you have team members there that livelihoods depend on those big dollar sponsorships. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely see it. But then I also see, you know, letting them be themselves. We talk about having personalities and all these things. And if we strip all the things that they love to do away from them, does that take away from their personality? You know, I don't know, but it's worth thinking about.
Brad, your thoughts on this? You're Rick Hendrick. You going to go let them play in the dirt?
I am. I actually fall on the side of don't keep them in a bubble. Let them go do their thing, because just like Alex Bowman got hurt and it really affected his season in a race car, Chase Elliott's injury might be a little bit different in a different conversation. Kyle Larson went out there and won the midweek championship in the high limit sprint car series there and won a bunch of big races and finished as the runner up in the final season point standings. You know, you go back and look at Kyle Busch. His most prolific years in the Cup Series were the years that he was running as many truck and Xfinity races as he could. And there are people who will say, and Kyle Busch used to say it himself, this keeps me fresh. This is my practice. This is what keeps me at the top of my game. And with the lack of seat time now that they have in a race car, because they don't really have practice anymore, a 20-minute session, maybe a longer one for a couple of races a year, this gives them seat time. So I'm all for, hey, if they want to go do it, great. But I will say there is one caveat to this. if you're out for any amount of time, we don't pay you that week at all. We're going to pay someone else to drive your race car, and there's probably a good chance the sponsor might pay us a little bit less to have someone in that race car. But just because you're out, you're still a part of the team, but you're not getting paid that week.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Or the one.
I'll stand by that.